All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We are here another week for Tech Bros Weekly. And ladies and gentlemen, Robinhood, you guys know what I'm about to do, has passed $135 a share. Pretty wild day.
It just completely blows out your mic and auto adjusts to your sound.
It did. Now we can barely hear you.
Did you hear the bell or no?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
towards the end, it was almost nothing, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened on the close too. It's the StreamYard's doing that weird thing where it like blurs out the bell again. But today was a big day. Today was an exciting day. So let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I think we should just get into it from the sort of raw price action that we saw today. Roy, I'll give you the first word because Tanner was on the close today. What was your reaction to seeing Robinhood's price?
I mean, I was telling you guys before, I sold some covered calls to 137. I'm like, these should be okay. And like, well, maybe I should wait. I'm like, nah, they'll be fine. They don't feel fine. Now, thankfully, that's not my only thing that I've done. But yeah, I was astonished. And then I saw your post and I'm like, institutions, right? I mean, and you look at like, especially that morning through like about 2:00, the buying, it keeps going up by about the same. It's like, it's so obviously that it's institutions. So I'm like, oh man, but I love, because we've been doing the show for a while. We're like, hey, why is S&P 500 not getting Robinhood in? And we're like, oh, well, they can buy it for higher, and they are. So that's a good feeling when they are lifting your stock up. So, I mean, that was just ridiculous today.
Tanner, your reaction?
No, I mean, it like I said this earlier this evening, it's mind-blowing, but also completely deserving. Like, they're just firing on all cylinders and and creating new cylinders. This used to be a V4 type company. Now we're a V freaking 12, baby. There's just so many segments going on in this business and they're all running. And prediction markets might be the new one, then banking, and then who knows what after that. I mean, it's awesome. It's amazing.
Dude, I don't think anyone expected this shit. Like, I didn't realize that the institutions bought at the end of the month. I thought it was supposed to happen on September 22nd. If we all knew that today was the day they were going to buy, maybe that's why they don't publicize it. I think we all would have picked up a little bit more on Friday when it fell 5%. But I didn't expect that. But AppLovin going up 8% on the day, that's where it became obvious. Oh, this is like an S&P 500 thing that happened. AppLovin got to 745 at one point today.
Man.
So it was a bit unprecedented, but it was awesome.
I bought AppLovin this month or whatever, or sorry, not this month, but right whenever they showed earnings from last quarter, and I'm up like 97% already.
Yeah. In case in point, I don't know that necessarily got out of the trade desk at exactly the same time, but it was around the same time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people in retail, especially if you're new in the markets, make the mistake of, I'll wait till the trade desk is even and then I'll get into something else. Well, here you killed it. I mean, you know what you're doing. You're smart. And you're like, hey, the trade desk, I see some concerns. AppLovin, what are they doing with these earnings? Okay, I'm going for it. No hesitation there. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving me too much credit, but that is something that I actively try not to do. Is a lot of people wait to break even when really the opportunity cost is so much more than just accepting your loss and throwing it into something that's moving. Like, or else you're stuck holding something that you honestly do not believe in and could just continue to get worse. But I'm not suggesting that for the trade desk, by the way. I don't have anything against the trade desk. I just saw a little bit more opportunity in AppLovin.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to dive into in terms of what has happened with Robinhood over the past 7 days, but I want to get the audience's gauge on the price action. Kind of, if you have to describe it in a couple words or a sentence, how would you guys describe it in the chat? I think for a lot of people, it's quite frankly very emotional. I mean, when this is life-changing money for a lot of people, and also they've just been covering the journey. I mean, so many people have been here for so long, seeing this happen. It's not often you get a 20x, and even if you don't have a 20x return, just being part You know, you could have hopped in at 70 and you're still up basically double, which is crazy. Like, that's the beautiful thing about these companies, right? Like, hopped in Nvidia at 120, up 45% right now. It's not the 10,000% that some people are up, but still, like, these companies that continue to exponentially grow give opportunities, especially when there are dips. And in April, you had one of the best dips ever. So, I mean, Roy, just seeing the price action itself, knowing you've been so early to the story, how did that feel throughout the day when you saw it happen?
I mean, it feels good, obviously. But so for me, like Robinhood is a really big deal because, of course, you and I admit we're very early in Palantir. You were a lot heavier than I was, but, we made out like a bandit. But I honestly, I think at least at that point, I was new enough to an individual investing. I'm like, well, everybody gets one of these at some point. Maybe not quite on the tier of Palantir, but I was like, that's nice. But with Robinhood, like that was kind of the second one of these where I'm like, okay, I actually think I know what I'm doing now, and so it gave me a lot more confidence. Even just like when we were talking about last year and we're in the 20s and 30s, I'm like, even there, I'm like, okay, I've got something. I figured it out. I figure out what works well for me and what I'm good at and what I'm really terrible at and I need to avoid. So, but yeah, no, it feels really good. It's also really nice that, I mean, all of us were, pretty early. Uh, Tanner, like I want to give like the biggest credit to Tanner because Tanner has a capacity to actually change his mind. And I remember like, when we were talking about Robinhood and we are pitching Robinhood and you're like, nah, I don't know about it. And you actually looked into it. You saw them continue to execute at a really high level. And you went long actually before I did. I was 100% in options and just looking at it as a swing trade. So that's a hard skill to do. Amit, like you nailed yet another of these plays like very early on. And like the craziest thing is like you see there's a lot of people posting and talking about Robinhood. Of course, like when it's like the top gainer in the S&P 500, it's up like, close to 500% in the last year. It is going to get a lot of mentions. But when we began to talk about it, it was a hated name. People like opportunity cost. This is a dumb company. They're scammers. Everybody can do what Robinhood does. And they were wrong. And I was even wrong in how, like, if you had told me like when Robinhood was trading at $12, oh, we're gonna see, this massive move, close to $150 in this short a time, I'd be like, nah, I don't think so. Even with the golden confluence. And here we are. And the last little bit, and I'm sure we'll talk about prediction markets, but it doesn't feel like late. I'm not saying that it's cheap. It's not the opportunity it was, a year and a half, 2 years ago. But like at this price range, it's not cheap. It's on the expensive side, but it's not, I think buying here, like at Robinhood, if you're holding it for 5 or 10 years, like if I didn't have a position, I'd buy Robinhood right here. I wouldn't wait for a dip. Now it'd be a DCA. I kind of average in. It's going to be volatile both ways, but like if you look at the cadence of what they're launching, the TAM expansion that they've done over the last year, it is almost unheard of for a company to do this without really ruining their margins or hiring a whole bunch of people or doing massive acquisitions that really just is a short-term sugar rush. It's their generation. They are.
Agreed. Tanner?
No, I was just going to say, I feel like I'm getting too much credit today. I bought in much later and not with as much conviction. If I were to, like, honestly, I think the amazing part is with Amit is that, and what I'm realizing as an investor, like the three of us, we went on a very special dinner together and met some other great investors. And the thing that I constantly am reminding myself is I'm not going heavy enough into the plays that I believe in. Yeah. And that I am, even though I'm really well diversified, I still need to make sure that I tighten up, and the things that I have huge conviction in, I want to double down on. I'm extremely heavy in Nvidia, and that's great, but I don't want to let that get more than 50% of my portfolio because I think there's going to be smaller names that might run even more. But then I also almost like counter check myself in the market and be like, do I continuously chase those gains because we're toppy? Am I getting to that point in 2021, 22 where I'm like, now I'm chasing the small caps and eventually we get burnt? So I don't know. I think the thing is, Amit, if you're going to get your flowers, which you're always deserving of them, some of the two best investments that you could have made over the last couple of years, you were on both of them. And then the conviction that you put into those was insane. Like, you have such few names, and those names have really run. That's a thing that I got to really pat down on. Because although I still think like I was early on Hood, not as early as some, but I didn't buy nearly as heavy as I should have. I bought on the way up, but not nearly as much.
I will say, you flipping the page and getting bullish on Hood was actually very important for the broader Hood community, because I don't know if you fully understand this, but people really respect your opinion when it comes to fintechs. And until you got bullish on Hood, the only fintech you were pounding the table on was SOFI, which has done very well. But I do think there was a little bit of legitimacy that was added to the broader, hey, Hood is a legit fintech, when the fintech guy on YouTube said, yeah, I can't deny it anymore. And I do psychologically think that got a lot of people to be like, all right, if Tanner's in, there has to be something special here. That's important.
It wasn't just SoFi. I was in a bunch of, I still am in a bunch of fintechs. I mean, people know me as the SoFi guy, but if you see my portfolio, I've got a lot of fintech.
No, I agree, but SoFi is like, that's what you've been banging the table on for 4 years, right? So, but and Hood was always seen as like the opposite of it. So when you pivoted, because a lot of people in the SoFi community did not make that pivot. They just, they're not like super bears on Hood, but they've not bought shares of Hood. They've not cared about Hood's journey. But you were like, nope, I got to get on this bandwagon. And I think, at least for me also, that was just like, oh, he sees the vision. And, thankfully it's played out.
I don't know how you saw it before Q1 of 2024. I mean, that was, and like that earnings was what changed everything for me. Yeah. It was a complete pivot. Like, it was going from, hey, we're trying to figure out, they weren't even really pushing out product at that time. They were slow, or not slow, but they were slowing down on their amount that they were putting out new product. Growth rates were not that crazy. They had customer drop off. Monthly active users was falling. Like, I don't know how you saw it before I saw it. I felt at 16, I was like, okay, you know what? The vision is so clear. And what's so funny is the market crashed on that day. It was amazing earnings. Yeah. And in after hours went up to like 23, and then it dropped down to like 16 or 17, $16 the next day. Like, it was such a wild sell-off. It was by far the easiest day to buy, that or the yen carry trade day, when it went to like 14.
Yeah, that was easy.
Yeah. And Tevis tweeted out, and he said, I'm going to buy Hood so I have a lower cost basis than Tanner. So I was like, this guy's not going to get one up on me. I'm also going to buy. And then he didn't even buy. But
I remember that day. I was with Arnie coming back from the Palantir SCSP event. And we were at some like pit stop in DC, some like service center. And I remember seeing your tweet. I was like, oh crap. I think I even quote tweeted that day. I was like, ladies and gentlemen, he's in. We got him. So, all right. So here's a couple questions on Hood, and then we'll get into some of the other topics. Here's the first big question I think everyone's asking. Is it toppy? Is it overvalued? Is it too expensive? $120 billion market cap. Is this way too much? Is this sustainable at 135? I mean, our price targets, all three of us unanimously agreed 130 to 135 is where we think it's going to end out the year. It's above that. And if the S&P hits 7,000, I don't know if it stays at these levels. So Roy, we'll give it over to you. Do you think it's a little too aggressively priced at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, it's going to pull back at some point. The thing though, is this is a heavy institution name. A lot of those institutions are not selling out. Like, they're very convicted in Robinhood. Any long-term price targets you look at are just really good. Now, what the two things, maybe even three things that could give us a big pullback. One is, RSI is really overheated, and it's a healthy thing for a stock to take a breather after a while. But, of course, macro, government shutdown, all that stuff. The whole market takes a little pullback. Robinhood will be right along there with it. If we get a crypto winter, sometime, whenever it happens, that'll be probably a good opportunity to buy the dip in Robinhood, honestly, with what happens with the stock price. And then also we're nearing earnings. Now this earnings isn't, as critical, and I think it's going to be very good. We'll talk about the monthly numbers here in a bit, I'm sure. But next earnings, so this is Q4 that they'll report in January, that's that first really challenging year-over-year comp. And they, like, if you look at their earnings, they've not grown immensely sequentially, quarter over quarter. like you would like to see. Now, I think that there are things that are absolutely going to drive that growth and surprise a lot of people. If you look at like the estimates for next year, I think that they're way too low. But, I think that there may be some short-term chop, a pullback. Nothing silly, but like that's the great thing about it. And I know our friend Steve, just he's a great writer. I haven't read what he wrote on Robinhood other than just like the first 2 paragraphs, but I love the timing of it. So I think he's right. There will be a pullback, but it may be to a pullback where it was just on Friday.
That might be the his worst performing click-through rate on one of his tweets, because the second people saw his tweet and said downgrade up 12%, people are like, I don't need to read this.
Poor guy.
Yeah, unfortunate. But honestly, it was just bad timing.
Yeah.
There might even be something there, but also I assume here's the thing. If you look far out on Robinhood, which he does, on like what Wall Street thinks is going to happen for 2026, 2027, it never looks good for Robinhood. Like looking too far out is terrible. And it was for 2025 and 2024 as well. They just could not envision what Robinhood was going to do. Okay. So the fact that, back before for Q3 of 2025, years ago, they were like, oh, it might be a 15% year over year growth rate. And now we're going to put up 87%. How do you even justify those numbers? Like they were so far off. It's insane. So I don't know if he is looking out forward earnings based on what Wall Street is seeing. It's not, that's not enough for me, unfortunately.
Mm-mm.
Which, by the way, we got September numbers. I want to show you guys my predictions and what we could be seeing for revenue and EPS.
Before we talk about that, Amit, so what do you think?
I have been buying Hood every $10 up. 124 was my last buy. I'm not buying here. I am officially putting my foot down and being like, maybe this is time where I stop averaging up. I don't know, dude. I obviously think the momentum and the catalyst for growth are there. S&P 500 was something we were relying on, but the stock was at 97 when we were saying, hey, S&P's coming. That's a big catalyst. Well, we're $40 higher. S&P happened. The catalyst has occurred. The next biggest catalyst is earnings and banking. I don't know how big of a catalyst banking is going to be because I don't know how many people it's going to roll out to. So that might be more of a 2026 catalyst. So I don't know what to do at this point other than hold. I don't feel the most comfortable adding at these levels. I feel like that's even getting aggressive for someone who's been buying into strength. But I also don't think we can be surprised if this bad boy heads over to 150. I mean, if Robinhood had Palantir's multiple, it'd be a $450 stock. Now, I don't expect it to get Palantir's multiple. But the point is, if it expands its multiple and Q4 surprises even more to the upside, and we get a bull market and Bitcoin and Ethereum go crazy, I mean, like, you can't say that this thing is not going to be higher than where it is today. So I'm holding, but I am optimistic on seeing what's happening, but I'm definitely not selling. I don't. If it really has a nasty dip, which I think it's going to be a little hard unless there's a macro dip because you got a lot of institutions that are now in, then I just buy that dip. But I'm not buying either right now.
Yeah, hard part for Q4 as well. Like I'll show you guys my predictions for this quarter, and the comps from Q3 of 2024 look easy.
Yeah,
very easy. Q4 of 2024 next quarter is hard. That was a huge quarter.
Q4 that you got it right. They did $1 billion.
Yeah.
So for them to grow at this 40-50%, they're gonna have to do a lot more than $1 billion.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a little tough in Q4.
Yeah, but this quarter, man, I don't know. They like even I'm trying to do some basic math on like how much they brought in from Bitstamp. It's crazy. And if I get to ask another question on earnings, that's going to be the first question I ask. How do we understand the earnings from Bitstamp?
Okay, well, let me show September month to date, and then Tanner, you can pull up the Excel file. So this is the data we got this morning. Equity 206 billion. That's pretty much all-time high. Options 187 million. Last month it was 195. We have 3 days left, so it probably gets into that 190 range. And then crypto was a little less than expected. 8 billion for the actual Robinhood app, and then 12 billion for Bitstamp. Again, they have 3 days left in September. So it's a good September historically, because I've looked at their Septembers in the past and it's just not been anywhere near this good. But not sure how much crypto is going to contribute to really give us momentum for Q3.
Yeah. I mean, the other added benefit is Bitstamp there, which is not comparable year over year. It's brand new. We just saw it tease in July. So this is the only thing that I changed a bit from whenever I showed it earlier. Is we know this data. That's the stuff that you just showed off, right? The stuff in the yellow here. But if we go out, that was only for September 1st to September 25th. So we're missing a few days. We're missing the 3 remaining days of the month. 3 remaining trading days of the month and 5 days for crypto. Okay. So we saw 25 crypto trading days and 18 equity days so far. If we take the daily average volume or the darts there, what we can end up seeing is the September estimated total. So I really do believe that September looks more like equity. It was 240 billion, which is just insane. Options was 218 million contracts traded, 9.6 billion of Robinhood app crypto, and then 14.4 was Bitstamp crypto. If you guys think that I'm doing my math wrong or something is wrong here, please tell me now or hold your peace.
What does the revenue look like for Q3 with those numbers?
Okay.
If you calculated that.
So based on that trading volume, and these are my take rates. Sorry, let me close this in for you. Actually, let me show you. So this is the same take rate that what we saw for the past few quarters. I'm not changing much on options. In fact, I'm being less bullish than last quarter. And on crypto, I'm just at 0.58, like just slightly higher than the last quarter. Okay. So the question that you asked, I think we're going to get around 1.2. I actually think we'll pass 1.2 billion in revenue, 753 million in transaction-based revenue, 372 million in net interest revenue, and 70 million in other revenue. That's my assumption.
The analysts have 1.15, so that's still a beat on revenue.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm being very cautious here with the other revenue here. Prediction markets, according to Vlad, he said there's 20 million that has come in this quarter, and that's so far. So we're probably going to see 21, 22, something like this. Instant withdrawal fees has probably climbed up. The amount of credit cards, like the transactional based revenue from tapping those cards and getting the interchange revenue, I'm not counting any of that. So it'll probably be higher than 70 here. But yeah, like cryptocurrency, we say it's not doing so well, but it's still be the second best quarter we've ever seen. And look at this. My cat is going crazy behind me, by the way. I'm sorry.
We can
so from crypto notional volume, I'm suggesting there's $232 million coming from Robinhood app and 60 million coming from Bitstamp. How insane is that?
That's pretty wild.
60 million from Bitstamp. We bought this company for 200 million.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's what they do with their acquisitions though. Like they don't silo the acquisitions off. They integrate them well, they rebrand them, and they help them get to whatever that next level is time and time and time again. And like we're seeing it with everything, like even Pluto, it's the one that we don't talk about. Like Cortex is coming from this. They now have an AI summit that's coming at the end of the year. It's just like, man. One question on the cryptocurrency. I'm assuming that doesn't include any staking, correct?
No staking, because there's no way for me to guess how much, their audience is doing that.
Yeah.
If they take a 25% cut, if I remember, like it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, and I have to look. I know that they had it on their 10K. It may be in their 10Q as well, showing the Ethereum that's under custody. But it was quite a bit when I was looking at it. And of course, Ethereum has done very well. So I expect that's quite a bit higher now.
I think on average, about what is it? About 30 or 40% of people stake their Ethereum. It's actually not that high.
Yeah, it's much lower than Solana. I just saw a chart on that last week.
Yeah. And then what was I going to say? So yeah, it's brand new. Coinbase's crypto revenue, about 10% of it comes from staking. So it can be a lot. It can be. My two favorite YouTubers, says Davis in chat, and Amit.
I just want Davis to know. I have been telling so Davis is a good friend of mine. I have been telling this man to buy some freaking hood for 2.5 years. No, can't do it. Can't do it. I pledge allegiance to SOFI. I'm like, you could still have your SOFI. Just buy some hood. Finally, during the tariff drama, he bought some $55, $70 Jan 2027 call debit spreads. And he is so in the money on those spreads. And he's at least finally got some exposure to hood. And he's going to do a good 5x on that trick. So
yeah,
we got that for Davis. But no, Tanner, I agree with all your thoughts. I think Q3 is going to be pretty strong. And I think that gets us into this conversation, which is a big thing that Vlad announced today. 4 billion contracts have been traded in the prediction markets, 2 billion in the past 90 days. They launched this product less than 9 months ago, or less than 12 months ago. It's pretty incredible. Roy, we'll start off with you. How are you perceiving the prediction markets ecosystem? I actually played a couple of games over the weekend. I lost $150, but the dopamine of it, I could tell why it was exciting for people. Do you think this product will be a $1 billion run rate product over the next couple of years?
A billion over the next.
And the reason I'm saying that is because Piper Sandler has 200 million for their run rate, which would be 20 billion contracts in 2026. Do you think in the next 5 years that could be $1 billion?
Let me just throw this out there. I've not shared this publicly, and I'm going to make a separate video, probably releasing tomorrow. I've been doing a lot of research on this too. There is a not too unlikely scenario next year where they hit a $500 million annual run rate, just on the predictions market.
Wow.
So the weird thing about the 200 million run rate is that, like, Piper Sandler put that out before Vlad had put out that piece. So it just completely disproved them, like 100%. Like, sorry, this cat, man, he's going crazy. I don't know if you can hear that. He's just biting all the plastic. Stop. But this is the culprit. Okay.
Is this what messed up your computer last month or something?
I don't know. Maybe he's chewing all the wires. But what was I going to say? So
you're saying 200 million is conservative.
Right now, 2 billion in contracts is $20 million of earnings. That, if you annualize that, that's very easy. That's 80 million. Okay. Let's say they're being a little conservative because September's not finished. Maybe it's 25 million is how much they're actually going to see. That's $100 million. So either Piper Sandler got that on the dot and they did all the research and they assumed 2 cents per contract and they were just wrong, or they were off on their prediction. And yeah, because we're not
or they're like Roy and they expect 2026 to be massive demand for this product.
Yeah, but that's not what a run rate is. That's not like, if they assume 200 million, that's fine. But to say we're on a $200 million run rate, that's not true. We're on 100.
You think they had to count 2 cents a contract then, right? How else would they mess that up?
Maybe they could have, or they just, I don't know.
Well, he did say over 2 billion, so you don't know like exactly what it is.
Yeah, by over 2 billion, you mean 4.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's in Q3 alone. So yeah, but yeah, I see what you're saying. So
throw the cat
onto there's a dog bed here, so I threw him onto the
bed. Yeah. Yo, tell me, did anyone else see that? I just saw him throw the freaking cat, dude.
There. I don't know if you could see this here, but there's a bed right there.
Nah, you throw it on the floor.
Look at how weird of a cat that is. He's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Roy, go ahead.
But yeah, the main thing is, like, you can see, like, they've made a lot of UI improvement. Awareness is still very small, so that's going to increase quite a bit. South Park, they featured a Kalshi thing. Kalshi, like, Piper Sandler estimated 25 to 35% of the volume on Kalshi is just Robinhood, which, that's a fairly wide range, but I don't think that's ridiculous. And, like, you look at what they're doing. Let me throw this up, actually. This I found pretty interesting. Like Kalshi has not, like, it existed, way back here, but it was so tiny and small, and you can just see how it's taken over the predictions market. Now, Polymarket's still a big global player. There are places where it's banned, but this is all just in the United States. And if a third of this is in Kalshi, like, we're looking at a scenario, if they continue this trajectory, that the prediction volume on Robinhood alone will exceed Polymarket fairly soon, which is shocking. They've not done any advertising. Again, it's all in the United States. You look at, by the way, some of the places where they're launching. Singapore, I don't know nearly as well. I know Australia has a very big sports betting culture, not a huge investing culture. United Kingdom is the exact same way. Very big sports betting culture, not a very big investing culture. I would love to see, a scenario where, as they launch, and of course it depends on regulation. And there's also cases pending in the United States too that, if they go favorably, that's an if, it's not guaranteed that they'll actually roll these things out. And I would love to see some people actually come in for sports betting or predictions market, whatever you call it, but stay for the investing and actually learn how to be a credible investor and take some of those gains. May not happen, but I think that there's just so much what they're not even offering now. Like, this is being used by a lot of people, as a hedging option. You can get in and out in the middle of the game too. There's a lot of liquidity on some of these, which is very helpful. And there's like a lot of features that bettors look for don't even exist yet. And I have a hard time imagining. Go ahead.
Why do you think 500 million, Roy, in 2026? How are you getting to that?
So it's between 4 and 500 million. So basically, I think that they could hit the annual run rate, which is not the same thing as that's the revenue for 2026, just to clarify. But you see what they're already doing in terms of volume here with Vlad's number in September, in a time where Robinhood is not going to just leave the predictions market like it is and not make any changes at all over the next year. You can see how much that they've spread out this platform. I expect spreads are going to be part of this as well in the future. There's a lot of states where they can't offer, or they're not offering much in the way of products, in a whole bunch of countries as well. And so I don't know that they'll advertise this, but they've done zero advertising on it. But the big thing is like that awareness piece. Robinhood Social helps spread it. Just having these major events where people, like actually Paper Gains showed me like one of his sports betting feeds. And you can see the penetration that Robinhood has made through there, and the awareness that people have of like, this is even an option, is so small. Like, it's so early. I don't love this shift, but among younger generations, a lot of them are more geared towards and thinking about this kind of thing, the predictions market, not so much investing. And hopefully that's something that changes over time, but it meets, it's just an easy layup. So I can, like, if there's no regulatory change, they don't launch this internationally or anything, like, I could see this pretty easily double in terms of annual run rate. But I think that, they're going to go for it. They see that there's huge opportunity. And that missing piece, and the reason why I didn't make it public before, was I think Vlad's tweet today is confirmation that this isn't just an add-on. It's a nice little feature. Like, him doing something like this, and of course, IR wanting to highlight it as well and just saying, hey, here's a couple of Vlad tweets in case you're investing and for some reason you're not on X, so that you can be aware of. And like, I don't know. I was a little bit surprised with the Vegas event that they didn't, do anything more with.
Oh,
We lost him. My face.
it's a good frame to lose him on, though.
Yeah.
You're back.
Yeah. You hear us?
No. Roy? You hear us?
I'm back, I think. Maybe. Yeah, I can hear you.
Good to be back.
Can you
All
hear
right.
me? Okay, I can see you. It's good, I think.
Okay.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me exit and I'll come back.
Bro, short StreamYard. Someone build a competitor to this freaking or it's Roy's Wi-Fi. It might be his Wi-Fi. I blamed StreamYard last time. That was my fault. It was definitely my Wi-Fi. But
That's too funny.
The one thing Roy didn't say that I thought he would say is that 2026 has the World Cup. That could be the thing that I think gets us a very high level. Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah.
That's better.
Okay, what I was going to say is I agree with everything you said, but 2026 has the World Cup. I think that's what really can get them over the top in regards to the volumes.
Well, that and it's not Major League Soccer. The Premier League. There's a huge betting culture around soccer that they've not penetrated into. In the United States, it's not nearly as big, but like if they're willing to and they're able to launch this internationally, I've done some research too. There's places like France where Polymarket is banned. You likely wouldn't launch there. UK, you can absolutely do that. As far as I can tell, I might be missing something. And
I forgot that prediction markets isn't global; it's only in the United States.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Point.
This is really early. I still have reservations with it being the same platform, but that ship is sailed. That's what they're doing. That's fine. Man, it's early.
Yeah,
I agree. All right, so
what do you guys think, Tanner? Like, I didn't hear pushback on that. Do you think it's crazy to think that I'm thinking maybe 20-25% chance of them hitting that run rate next year? Is that wild or crazy?
Honestly, I'm not sure. They haven't really done any marketing towards it. I don't know how large the sports betting industry really is. I haven't looked too much into it. I'm only going off what we know of right now from Kalshi and Polymarket. I think they suggested that Robinhood makes up a third of Kalshi's volume. But I'm interested to see how it grows. I'm honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, Paper Gains is in the comments for one of you guys, and he thinks I'm being bearish by throwing that out. Not quite, but I don't know.
I don't know if they do 400, 500 million annualized next year. I think it's possible. I wouldn't say that's my base case, but give it a 25% chance. Yeah, I think that's very possible.
If they are doing that much, I think the interesting part that people need to realize is that they won't be working with Kalshi for very long if that's the volume they're putting through. I mean, they don't need to split 50-50 with another provider if they're doing, what is that, 50 billion in contracts or something? It's not happening.
But here's the thing. Here, could they actually ditch Kalshi because, dude, I would love that as an investor, because why the hell do we pay these guys 50%? But I think if they could have done it by now by themselves, they would have done it, right?
Well, I think a lot of the volume has come in the last little bit, like last 6 weeks or so. So I think it's still very new to them, and they probably are building something. Like, give them some time to build up the background here. But if you think about it, if we're 1/3 of Kalshi is, I forget what the size of the market is. I mean, like, we're getting to or have surpassed the size of Polymarket as Robinhood alone.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's enough to have your own market.
So the one thing that I think there's two things kind of preventing that, at least right now. One is regulator scrutiny. Now, they have done some lawsuits, Robinhood actually as well, just directed at states where the gaming conventions are trying to prevent certain things. There's been injunctions as well. There's only been one that's actually gone negatively so far. It's preliminary, but it's in Maryland. I think that adds just an extra layer where they're like, well, we're just doing this with a partner. Now, if there is regulatory confirmation, clarity, unless they have some agreement with Kalshi that says we're going to use you for this many years, I think they probably stick with them for a little while. And the other part too is when the predictions market stuff was released, like, you can remember Vlad's comments. I don't remember exactly what they said, but they had no idea like how big a thing that it would be. Of course, they got pushed back on some of their products, especially the Super Bowl launch. But I don't know that internally anyone in Robinhood really expected this, even at Kalshi, maybe. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Kalshi, and speaking of regulatory clarity, Kalshi CEO and Polymarket CEO were at the CFTC today, and this is a quick clip of the CEO of CME using their product.
Yeah.
I was on a 2X market all weekend like a junkie. I was in Las Vegas with a bunch of clients. Casino never saw me because I was on his platform the whole time screwing around.
Terry, you failed to tell the audience whether you made money or not this weekend.
You made money. I broke even.
Okay, so my takeaway from that is the regulators, especially because this is Trump's America now, are going to be very friendly towards these derivative products that are rooted in the financial ecosystem, because it's a deregulatory environment. If that's the case, unless there is some technical infrastructure that Robinhood gets the benefit of from partnering with Kalshi, we should try to do this by ourselves, right? Because if it was only to be with them because like, oh, we're just partnering with them so the regulators don't get upset. Well, if the regulators don't care anymore, then we got to ditch them because 2 cents a contract doubles that revenue, right? But maybe there's something deeper for why we're working with Kalshi.
I think early on too, Robinhood's not known for this platform. If someone was looking specifically for a prediction market or a betting market for sports, they wouldn't pick Robinhood if they had no volume, right? Like if there's such low liquidity, then that means like to find people who can take both sides of that bet, I mean, that might be rare. So I think part of it is you need buyers, you need volume.
Yeah. Good point.
But we might not need forever.
The other thing that they could do too is be ready to do that and say, hey, we're willing to go our own. Kalshi, you know, if you'd like to, we'd like to have a higher take and we'll stay with you for X number of years. That could be a scenario where Kalshi's like, okay, great. We'll sign that contract. We'll get 30 cents, you know, and you get $1.07 or not $1.70, 1.7 cents out of this, not so 0.3 cents. And, you know, that just opens up room for negotiation. Now they'll have to determine like whether it's worth it to, you know, hire some specific people. They'll need, you know, some additional personnel that they probably don't have, and it'll take some time. It won't be an overnight thing. But either way, like I can see them renegotiating and saying, hey, we want a higher take rate, or going their own and just keeping it all on platform themselves. But yeah.
Now, if Kalshi was smart, they probably would have seen that scenario coming. And when they signed the partnership, they probably been like, hey, in 2 years, don't fuck us. Don't try to do this yourselves, you know? So like, I don't know how it's going to play out. But as long as this product keeps scaling, even if it's with Kalshi or not, I think it should be accretive for sure.
Well, Kalshi was not their first partner. The first partner was Forecast FX or something.
Yeah.
With is it IBKR or one of those companies that they were dealing with before? So
yeah,
they were dealing with another company. And in fact, if you want to go back, I think it was like a November 2024 article where Kalshi writes a full article on why you should not use Robinhood's betting platform.
Really?
And then, yeah, oh yeah.
Huh.
It was
really
posted on their own blog. Yep. You can, it's probably still out because I remember seeing it after they had partnered.
After they partnered, they wrote the article, or before?
No. It was still up after they had partnered. It was posted before they had partnered, but it was still up after they had. And so yeah, they were talking about the fees and the speeds and everything that Kalshi has versus what Robinhood has. Anyways, they ended up partnering. So I had talked so much crap on Kalshi during the elections too, which was so funny because I was like, who is this new player coming in? Like they're spending all their money on marketing. If you guys remember, they did all those drone shows and like they just spent every dollar that they had and more on marketing. And I was like, this company is going to be a flash in the pan. And boy, oh boy, have they stuck around like by partnering, and they've done really, really well. So congratulations to the CEOs there, like, or the people there.
Yeah. Palantir Alan too.
This
but you know what? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Robinhood actually owns the customer, and that's the most important part. Like banks are super good in that way.
I 100% agree. And this is the sports betting market that Chris shared a picture of. So obviously this thing is growing pretty rapidly, and that's a big market that Robinhood can take a piece of. But going to your point, Tanner, Robinhood can just acquire Kalshi directly. I would hate that as an investor.
Me too.
I also think Kalshi just raised that $5 billion. I do not want Robinhood spending $5 billion, and they're going to have to spend minimum. I mean, the way Kalshi is growing, Kalshi's going to ask for. Kalshi probably thinks of themselves as a $100 billion company right now. They are not going to settle for a $5 billion buyout. So I don't think a buyout's going to happen. I also think, why would we buy them out? What do they do? They don't own the customer. They just have a platform where you trade. That is commoditized.
The stock would crash if they spent $5 billion on Kalshi.
Yeah, no way.
And that would be a good deal too.
Yeah. Well, and like the other thing too is, unlike a lot of other companies, you know, that may want to do something like this, Robinhood has just elite engineers. So they may not, you know, I know some are likely sports guys. They'll have to hire people that, you know what bettors or predictors are looking for. But no, ultimately, like they can build this. I don't think anybody doubts that.
No, that's the incredible thing. People need, like, there are some companies that are, I honestly think there's like 3 types of businesses. There's the companies that build everything in-house. They don't go to M&A markets at all. You got the Adyens of the world that just, like, if it can be done on their own, they'll do it themselves. Then I think there's the Robinhoods of the world where only, or Shift Fours or these sort of ones where they only acquire a business if it's a screaming deal, or else they'll do it themselves. Okay. Yeah. They don't, what's the most expensive acquisition they've done? They don't do them. Like, it's always insanely cheap. Trade PMR, Pluto.
X1.
Yeah, X1. What was the other one? WonderFi. Like, these were all cheap, couple $100 million. They're not spending $5 billion. I would hate that. For what exactly? And then you have the other companies that pay a premium to completely change their business. And a little bit, sorry to say, but that is SOFI. SOFI overpays for their businesses to change their tech. Yeah. And it's actually a downside to their business. They had to write off that goodwill. I'm not even making an assumption here. That was, they overpaid and they wrote it off. It was a bad price.
Yeah.
But Bitstamp was $200 million and they're going to make that in a year. Like, that's insane. That's a price of sales of 1.
And like, they don't mess around when they acquire a company. Like, a lot of companies will be like, well, over the next, few years, we'll transition you into, they're like hitting the ground on like day 1. Here's these offers. We'd like you to stay with us in Robinhood. Here's what they mean. We want you to decide within 72 hours. And these are all the things that we plan to do with your company. It's like, wow, they actually have a vision. Like, that's the other thing too, is there's companies out there that, are just serial acquirers that will buy without like a vision of like, do we actually need this in our ecosystem? How accretive is it? How do we actually help them get to the next step?
He's thinking of PayPal.
I mean, there's a lot of them out there too. But yeah, PayPal in the past, I don't think anymore, but in the past they were a big time offender. They were. It was terrible.
Yep.
Okay, so we got about 15 minutes left, so we'll kind of rapid fire through some topics, but that is the conclusion on the hood stuff. Again, congratulations everyone. Big day. I think if we can normalize the 130s, it would be very, very exciting, and hopefully there's more room towards the end of the year if the S&P really makes a move, Bitcoin, crypto makes a move. That Robinhood potentially could be higher than 135. Okay, so some topics real quick. Roy, PayPal, do you think this doubles in 2 quarters like our friend Amir thinks it's going to do?
In 2 quarters, he's meaning like January when they do quarter 4, or 6 months?
I think it's mid 2026. He's calling for a double.
It could.
You really think it can get to 140 by June 2026? Because if that's true, it's the best buy in the stock market right now.
I think it's one of the best buys. Like the risk reward, there's basically no risk. The reward is not as high as some, but there's a higher risk on those. I think that quarter 4, when they report that in January, if things haven't shifted at that point, and today might be part of a narrative shift, I'm not sure, but I think that that's going to shock the market. I hate using that word, but it is what it is. So they're going to put up $5.5 billion of free cash flow in 2 quarters. They are trading at a little bit higher now, but a 12 forward price to free cash flow. So it just their top line is going to continue to accelerate. Braintree headwinds are alleviating in quarter 3. Quarter 4 is accelerating. You look at what they're doing. Venmo, PayPal World, when it launches in January. Like, I don't know how that'll work out with all the other wallets. I think it'll be a good thing. It'll be accretive. The biggest thing is Venmo is going to be able to be used anywhere PayPal is used in the entire world. Right now, it's just a US only product. People love Venmo. They love it. So when it goes global, it's not just where PayPal is used, which is a lot of places. It is any place where they've partnered with. So basically all of South America, Mercado Pago that's there, all of China, India. It's just like, okay.
So you're bullish.
What's that?
You're bullish. You think it can work out?
It can. I'm not saying, it's 100% guaranteed or anything, but I will be very surprised if we're, next year, if we're not comfortably in triple digits at the midway point, which is still really good. And I still think by 2030, they hit a new all-time high. A lot easier with the buybacks they've been doing, but yeah.
Okay. Tanner, quick thoughts on SoFi. It was down about 2% of the day. Got that like Morgan Stanley pseudo upgrade / downgrade.
That wasn't it.
Oh, that wasn't it? Okay. Why do you think it was down?
No, Upstart had a report that came out for their company that said delinquencies were skyrocketing and all of the lenders ended up taking a hit. Then if you can go, or I can pull it up, SoFi's investor relations literally had to reply and be like, guys, we're not even remotely the same. Like we're built different. That's what they said. So, yeah, it's very funny how people loop us in, but you know, Anthony Noto has said it time and time again. Like there is difference between other companies and our own. Like said here, credit is also performing well, and we've seen no change there. That's what they said on September 8th. So this rise in delinquencies that Upstart is seeing, I don't know. The AI models need to improve. That's not what SoFi is seeing. There was an old article that tried to bash SoFi saying last lender standing and how all these companies were crashing in 2022. And SoFi was next on the chopping block and it never came. You know, SoFi is built different. If there's one thing that people can try to talk crap about, whether SoFi is putting out newer and newer products, understand that, okay? They might be slow. The one thing they are top notch on, it's underwriting, okay? They underwrite like a MFer, dude. They're so good at it that other institutions come to SoFi and say, hey, can you underwrite for us? That's not a normal business model. That is very unique to SoFi. What Upstart wants to be, SoFi will be. And that's the problem. You can say AI all you want till the sun shines. They're going to get a big multiple on that. But the actual performance is what's going to matter. And SoFi will prove via performance that they are doing what you know has to be done to get adequate returns.
And the fun thing is, like, once if you're not yet seen as a leader in a certain space,
Such a white response. What does that mean? What does that mean?
I'm not gonna lie, bro. These MFers, that definitely was Ned.
I didn't want to swear. I didn't want to. It's a family
Sometimes
friendly
you gotta
show.
swear, bro. Sometimes. No, we love you. That was fun.
So at some point, though, SoFi is going to be seen as a market leader as far as lending and underwriting. It's not yet. Like there's a reason why it's running, and it's part of it. But when the market actually understands, and it may take another year, it may take them spinning off more products from the loan platform business. I think SoFi will get to that point. They've shown leadership here as well. And at that point, that's when you see headlines from like, oh, Upstart is not doing very well. You'll actually see SoFi do a little bit better that day than would be expected otherwise. We've seen that with other names as well, but it takes a little time for the market to really understand that and further execution. But yeah, this is a gimme for SoFi. But honestly, like, it can be frustrating for shareholders. But then when you realize, like, hey, the market is being irrational and giving me a dip because some other company sucks, which Upstart doesn't suck, but it's no SoFi. It's like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah, that's important to say too. I don't hate on Upstart. It's just they need to actually show in their numbers. Like, you can only be a story stock for so long. But yeah.
Well, I also think this should be a dip for every SoFi shareholder to be excited about. Like I remember when Robinhood got, what do you call from the SEC?
The Wells notice?
The Wells notice. They got the Wells notice. And I was like, this is stupid. And I bought more, right? Like, if you think SoFi's credit delinquencies have nothing to do with, well, why is that funny? It was stupid.
Because that for sure was your due diligence. That's
Wells Fargo's giving him a notice. Forget that.
Yeah. This is
dude,
stupid.
I didn't know what a Wells notice was. It was at 1850 at like 9:15. Then at like 9:25, 5 minutes before the market opened. I remember I was in DC with Arnie. Wells notice drops to 16:30. So this is fucking stupid. I don't know what it is, but I'm buying more. But so same thing with SoFi, right? If you think their credit and their underwriting is so much better, like an MFer, than Upstart, then you buy that dip and you don't care, right? Do you have an end of year prediction, Tanner, on SoFi and Roy, for that matter?
Mine was 25.
Yeah, I think mine was like $24.
I mean, 35 doesn't seem crazy if we get the 3 rate cuts.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, final topic for today. Should we be bearish Google now that Shopify, one of Tanner's big holdings, decided to work with ChatGPT over Gemini to buy products inside of the app.
Wait, say that one more time. Repeat yourself.
Should you be bearish Google because Shopify is using ChatGPT to sell products over Gemini?
And that's not what's happening. Shopify is not using ChatGPT. ChatGPT is using Shopify. So, and Google will do the same. Google works with Shopify.
Are you sure they're going to do the same? Are you sure it's going to be integrated to every LLM?
Yes. Yes, because Google Stores is run by Shopify. Meta Stores is run by Shopify. They all run on Shopify. So
you're saying this partnership was just something for OpenAI to be like, look, we partner with Shopify, but it's not really Shopify relying on OpenAI for distribution.
No. OpenAI is looking for the best partner so then they can offer a shopping platform on their platform. They came to Shopify and said, hey, how can we use you? You know?
Right.
Now, I'm
Shopify,
sure
Shopify has more leverage here, basically.
They have all the leverage. But I'm sure that internally, Shopify uses OpenAI as well. I think there was a comment that was made by Toby that said they pay for every single AI tool for their employees, but that's the extent of that. I mean, they're paying for subscriptions, but this is OpenAI tapping. They're going to Shopify and saying, "Hey, help us out because we'd rather not go to your competitors that are useless."
And Shopify partners with everybody, so
everyone.
It's not a.
They don't pick a winner.
And it could have been Tanner, like, to be fair, it could have been Shopify approaching Google and saying, hey, or not Google, ChatGPT, and saying, hey, look what we're doing for Google. We can do that for you. But either way, like, yeah, you're exactly right.
I'm sure the high majority of their employees have worked for the big companies that are using Shopify. You know what I mean? Like the e-commerce or commerce people that they've hired for OpenAI to set up these products came from Google or came from Meta or came from wherever, and they were using Shopify there.
The broader question then is, do we think these AI assistants are legitimately going to become multi-oriented products for us to the point where they're buying t-shirts easily? Like, I feel like that is the future that eventually we want to get into. Do you think this is the first beginning of that becoming reality?
Why do you think it's my second largest position? I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah. I want. I think that Shopify is going to be where customers are always. And to even call them an e-commerce solution is way underdoing what they are. I mean, they're a full-on like commerce as a service platform. Like they are the operating system to sell anything. That's the way that you should think about Shopify into the future.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited when I saw this because I was just like, dude, this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for like real integrations. I know Perplexity and Comet has some shopping stuff, but Shopify is global.
Who is Perplexity using? Who is that again?
PayPal and Shopify. And Google Gemini is also using PayPal and Shopify. And Stripe, you know.
And Stripe.
Would you buy Shopify stock here, Tanner, at 140? You think it's a deal? Or
well, I don't know. I don't want to increase my position. I have not bought in a while, actually, like in a long while. But they are going to be a free cash flow giant. And whenever you see those types of businesses, like, I don't think that Toby just wants to continuously acquire a big cash stack and do nothing with it. He's going to make some plays similar to NVIDIA, where you know, they are going to continuously make large investments and improve their product and get into new areas. I don't know where that goes. I'm not trying to make predictions on where they're going to go, but I'm just 100% in line with management. I think that he's one of the greatest CEOs of all time, Toby. And I'm going to hold that company in my retirement portfolio. And I obviously, I do follow their earnings, but I don't even really follow that company as closely as I should because I have 100% alignment with that company and stock. It's the only company that I feel like I fully married. I'd full port sell NVIDIA before I sell Shopify.
Wow. I think it's the Canadian pride that's keeping you tied to that, to be honest.
It's the only stock I hold in Canadian dollars, that's for sure.
It's a good company.
All right.
But-
I think that's it for us. I know people are putting BMNR in the chat. Dude, people are obsessed with this ticker. Have you guys noticed that? Is it just me?
It's a cult.
I'm obsessed with it now.
Yeah, me too.
No, but people, dude, like it was up 0.5% after hours. There was like 50 BMNR running. I go to it, it's up half. I'm like, it's not really running, but like I think a lot of people are in this name heavy and they are really bet. I mean, this thing goes to 100. People are going to be very happy when this plays out.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
bought a
mean,
lot more last week.
yeah, I think it's just too early to tell like what stablecoin and crypto is going to do for payments. Like talk about the cross section of what Shopify and OpenAI and Ethereum all are tying in together to do. Like, I mean, there's some pretty interesting things at work right now, and BMNR is acquiring Ethereum faster than I can, and by a very, very big margin.
Yeah. 2.65 million ETH now.
And like
Yeah.
what's really interesting to me is this, where as before SBET, was right up there with the others and actually surpassed. We're seeing the market actually consolidate. This is trading volume. And of course, there were some blips where BMNR actually had more volume in the day than MicroStrategy, which is shocking, but or strategy. But I think that this is the direction it goes. Maybe SBET can reverse that, or somebody can break their way in. But this is the way that these sort of plays usually happen. Is both because of awareness, like retail is doing that. Tom Lee is also helping, but also institutions prefer high liquidity, which is exactly what this trading volume is, and to concentrate on those leaders, those perceived leaders. So I don't know, like if Ethereum doesn't run, that'd be actually kind of surprising, but like they're so well positioned and they're executing their strategy perfectly.
They're the money that they just put in 8Co is worth 157 million now. They put 20 million in, and in September, I think it was September 8th, and today it's worth 157 million, up like 7.5x or something.
Now, someone's saying, would you sell your ETH and just buy BMNR? I think it really depends on what type of leverage you want. Obviously, BMNR is levered against ETH. There's a lot more risks to BMNR than to just holding ETH. But I do know people that are saying, I'm not buying ETH if I could buy something that's leveraged against it, which is more of a trend across a lot of people that are still bullish on Ethereum in general.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense where you can't legally stake the Ethereum. Where you can, I personally, like, I'm holding Ethereum, and I don't plan to sell that at all. BMNR for me, is at least a 2-year play. It depends how it runs. Like, obviously, if it goes absolutely crazy, I'll take profits along the way. But I think that BMNR will outperform the Ethereum, but also I realize, like it was with strategy during the previous crypto winter, it very much underperformed Bitcoin. They were kind of stuck in the mud there for a little bit too, and they're actually trading under their NAV for a good long while, which is not normal. And so, yeah, it's just a form of leverage. You have to figure out what you're comfortable with. But like, if you're like, okay, I'm going to do BMNR instead of Ethereum, then are you going to do the BMNU? Is that there's a double leveraged one? At some point, there'll probably be a triple leveraged one. And then it's like, okay, well, what about triple leverage? But then you're doing options on the triple, like at some point you have to say, okay, this is volatile enough. I've risked enough. That's it. So just be careful.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really, like, BMNR doesn't have debt, so it's not like there's a time limit on what they're doing. If they wanted to, or felt like they were in a bad position, they don't have to keep acquiring Ethereum, and they could just sit flat at 2.1% ETH supply and watch ETH go up. And I think the difference is, like, I think the problem is with strategy, and the problem with these these treasuries, which you pointed out to me earlier, Roy, is that they can get stuck. Like, if ETH does not continue to go up and they get in this weird position where they don't have any cash to buy the dips, and it's literally like where SBET is and a lot of these companies, they're like stuck in the mud, like their car's stuck. And you have to wait for ETH to accelerate for them to get out of it. And so they're completely dead in the water right now. But the interesting part about the ETH treasuries versus the Bitcoin treasuries is the yield. So just inherently there should be some level of earnings that should be able to slowly unstick yourself. Bitcoin doesn't have anything like that. So,
dude, MicroStrategy is up 2% this year in a bull market.
Yeah,
it got a little ahead of itself, which is part of it. But they also have a lot of debt too. Now, rate cuts actually are pretty good for them because they can, as those continue to fall, that hopefully will help as far as those yields. But yeah, I like BMNR is a lot more attractive because of what you said, Tanner. That first people can see the real value. Some people don't see it with Bitcoin. I do personally, but then you have the staking, so you actually have a yield, and you could do, of course, ETHZilla is doing this where they have I wouldn't say proprietary, but they have a partnership that allows them to get higher than what the normal staking would be. Although there is a measure of risk, they're still evaluating that with BMNR, but I have no doubt that they'll at least be staking it, if not making a little bit more, and probably they'll go that route. Let's see, there's one more. I forgot what it was. So
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm looking into it a lot. I just like the idea of comparing Bitcoin to Ethereum as what's called, Tom Lee puts it as gold versus oil. It's a great way to put it. And if you look at the Exxon Mobils and these sort of companies, they trade as a multiple of the amount of oil that they end up holding, let alone the inherent dividend and all of the, I don't know. The interesting part about Ethereum, it's not that new. There's a lot of historical trends that you can end up following. Ethereum goes up about $1 for every $2 that are essentially moving, that are secured to Ethereum. So the amount of stable coin adoption, the amount of things like Polymarket is a crypto-based product. So the amount of action that Polymarket ends up seeing, or tokenized assets, or games that are created there, or money market funds, or any of these things that are starting to go on chain, which is all of them are essentially picking Ethereum
and Swift.
Yeah, right. There's all these things that are going in that direction, let alone all the new markets that I think, I'm really on this, microtransaction thing. I think that's going to be huge. I think that this could be very big. I'm just very bullish, and I think 5% is not even that far away. And I just wonder what's his plan once he hits 5%, because he's at what, 2.1% supply. He needs 6 million ETH to get to that area. I really think he's going to get there. What happens at that point?
So 10%. What I think that,
he's just going to change the target.
What's interesting in their governance is they are the digital asset treasury that can hold whatever asset. So they do hold, of course, Bitcoin. They do hold orbs. I expect Bitcoin. At that point they'll do what, inflation proof is the wrong term, but there is some burn as far as our Ethereum supply, but it is not finite. And so I think that they'll make sure that they do what they need to do to maintain that 5%, at least for optics, maybe go a little bit north of that. But I think at that point, they'll be like, okay, is Bitcoin an opportunity here? Maybe Solana.
That's what I was going to say. What if they start buying Bitcoin?
Well, they have Bitcoin. They have 192 Bitcoin, something like that.
Yeah, but to Roy's point, what if they have so much excess income? They're like, well, we've already got enough ETH. Let's and maybe Bitcoin underperforms ETH over the next couple months or something like that. Maybe it's just down for whatever reason. And there's so many opportunities for him to take advantage of his brand's ability to raise capital, which is like what you're betting on here. And, Saylor's done this very successfully. MicroStrategy is 30 or 40x over the past couple of years, even if it's not having the best year this year. So if you were early, you've done very well. And now Saylor's kind of just like, Saylor's been very honest, but I don't care what happens to the stock. I just care about getting more Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin does explode, like we know it eventually will, strategy probably does as well. Maybe Tom Lee has the same thesis on both Ethereum and Bitcoin long term.
Do you guys think that, or I guess, what are the odds you think of BMNR ever surpassing MicroStrategy's market cap?
Big.
Really? You think that's possible?
I just think that inherently Ethereum is more important than Bitcoin. I think that oil is more important than gold.
You think Ethereum is more valuable to society than Bitcoin?
Yeah. And also I think like talk about the supply, keeping up with the supply. I don't think Ethereum needs inflation. I mean, it's inherently deflationary versus Bitcoin. Okay, so U.S. cash is inflationary. Gold, to some extent, is slightly inflationary. Bitcoin's fixed, and ETH is actually deflationary. If the gas prices end up, picking up, which it will be if the amount of people are, we see continued adoption. So I see a lot of utility in Ethereum, Solana, and a lot of other chains as well. But like, I find that to be a much easier purchase than Bitcoin. I find Bitcoin is a little bit of trust, and that I don't like. I like real utility.
It's a 6x the market cap of MicroStrategy versus BMNR right now. So,
oh, and also, if quantum is real, okay, which I'm not suggesting it isn't real, but isn't there a threat to Bitcoin with quantum?
I've heard that, and it's so far out of my competence zone. I can't say.
But isn't the whole idea is that you're solving, like, you can solve unbelievable math problems, and so you could take 100% of the I don't know how to explain it, like the hash rate, like you would just dominate every single Bitcoin reward, so every future reward would go to the person that has the quantum computer?
Honestly, I've heard this theory. I'm not educated enough to know if there's like legitimate truth to it. But well, Skrelly definitely thinks. I mean, Skrelly is trying to hack Bitcoin right now using quantum, but he thinks that's the only use case for quantum. So, I mean,
But
maybe
you can't do that with Ethereum.
I
right?
don't think you can. Correct.
Because it's proof of stake. So it's whoever has 50% of Ethereum can hack Ethereum, but or 51%. But that's very different than just a mathematical computer problem. Like, so I don't know. I just feel comfortable in Ethereum. That's all.
Well, we got a bunch of people in this trade, and you got some crazy price. Dude, I'm seeing price targets by end of year that are like, I mean, they're people talking about $500. I'm like, I don't know if we get there, but if we're at least like 70, I would be happy. If we're right now at 65, I'd be happy. So I'm very just like not trying to be too excited about it, but I do think long term, Ethereum likely gets more momentum, and BitMine will have the most Ethereum.
Yeah, the thing is, like, they're not doing MicroStrategy.
Trying to wrap.
Well, they're not doing MicroStrategy where they're going into debt to buy more. Instead, they're using their own stock. So, like, those really high price targets are kind of missing the idea. Like, they will dilute. It's not dilutive because they're actually buying, and they're way over in NAV. But that's going to also be some selling pressure on the stock.
Yeah,
it's the nature.
100%.
Yeah, someone said Ethereum is fintechy, and that's why Tanner likes it. It's 100% true. It fits into my circle of competence. I understand that there's a market need for it, and that like it really does have revenue. It has earnings. It has a dividend. It has buybacks. Like it, I do treat it as a little bit of a business.
Yeah.
Anywho,
all right, that's it for us. Thank you everybody for being here. We will be back next week on Monday. And once again, congrats to everybody on Hood. It's a big, big day. If we can keep the 130s, I think it'd be very exciting. And we'll see where we can go towards the end of the year. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.